Hey everyone, it's Mariana, and the final season of Game of Thrones, Season 8, is here at last, which means I am back with my episode recaps and reviews. So, big spoiler warning, as always, if you haven't seen the episode for some reason, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but you should go watch it and then come back and watch this video. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 1. Winterfell. So before we get into the actual episode, let's talk about that intro for a second because it's quite new. It's quite a bit different from the intros in previous seasons. Of course, they have always been adjusting intros depending on what's going on. They've had Winterfell in smoke, they had Winterfell under Bolton banners, all of that. So it's not like the intro has been always exactly the same, but this time around it's very, very different. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know how I feel about it. When I first saw it, I wasn't the biggest fan because of how big the difference was. I do like the idea of the tiles changing to signify the White Walkers and the winter, and I like that we got to see the crypts of Winterfell and just kind of see the buildings from different perspectives. So I liked what they were going for, but it was just such a big difference that it kind of took me aback. I wasn't really sure why would they do this for the final season when the intro has been mostly the same for all of the previous seasons. However, on my rewatch, I'm not going to lie, it kind of grew on me a lot, and I did enjoy it more the second time I watched the episode. So maybe I'll get used to it, but I still am not completely sure why did they decide to change up the intro so much just for the last season. Now, getting into the actual episode, I would like to talk about everything that happens at King's Landing first. We, of course, open at Winterfell, but the majority of the episode happens in the north. So before I get into all the northern stuff, let me just get the King's Landing stuff out of the way, where Cersei is not making any sense to me anymore. I generally have a lot of appreciation for Cersei as a villain. I think she is an interesting and complex character, even though she's obviously very, very mean, to say the least, and she does not always make the best decisions. She makes a lot of mistakes, but that's part of what makes her so interesting. And this episode, I was baffled by her dialogue and by her entire attitude. When Qyburn comes in, the first thing we see with her is that Qyburn comes up to her and says, "I have some really bad news. The dead have broken through the wall." And her response is just good, and she smirks about it. Like, this is not a great thing. You saw the white that they've brought to show you. You know, anyone who dies at Winterfell, if Winterfell loses, they're just gonna turn into undead people and come mess you up. Like, what are you so smug about? It's just, it made no sense to me because she's not dumb. She's not an idiot, but this reaction and this kind of attitude just makes her seem like she has completely lost it, which maybe she has. Maybe that's her new thing, but that's kind of disappointing for me. Also, with the arrival of Euron and the Golden Company, there's this odd interaction that happens where she keeps saying no to him because he wants her, obviously, and he's made that very clear. And then she tells him that if you want a woman right now, you can just go get a whore, and if you want the queen, then you're gonna have to earn her. But then 10 seconds later, she's like, "Oh wait, never mind." Okay, she doesn't really say anything, but she makes it clear that Euron is welcome to follow, and then obviously they have sex, he gets what he wants, and it's some mixed messages going on. The only explanation for this that I can come up with, and some of you have expressed this same idea, is that she is just trying to cover up for the baby that she's pregnant with from Jaime, and now she can present the baby as Euron's baby. So that's the only idea I have as far as what is going through her mind, but still, and we all know how much I hate Euron, so yeah, that was some of my least favorite stuff in the episode. I did, however, really enjoy when she asked about elephants. I just thought that it was such a funny wink to the audience. The Golden Company showing up without elephants was for sure going to anger some book fans, and me being one of them, I know that there are always things on the show that I complain about and other people complain about that they have not portrayed correctly or they've cut some corners, so that was definitely going to be one, so they just let the audience know right away, no elephants. Sorry. And she says, well, that's disappointing. So yeah, we are Cersei in that scene when it comes to the elephants. The other important thing that happens at King's Landing is that Bronn is set on this path to murder the two Lannister brothers, Tyrion and Jaime, and I am going to say that I'm not a big fan of this idea. There is no way this is going to end well. I like Bronn as a character. I love Tyrion as a character. I love Jaime as a character. He's my favorite character at the moment. And there are two ways this could possibly go. Way number one would be completely out of character for Bronn, where he wouldn't accept the proposal, which he's going to do it. He's a sellsword, and for people who doubt that he would accept this and who doubt that he would go against Tyrion and Jaime, you guys need to remember that he follows the gold. I'm going to be really surprised if he kind of stabs Cersei in the back and doesn't collect his payment, or at least doesn't intend to collect his payment. We have been reminded of his priorities many times through dialogue, and particularly when he would not fight the Mountain for Tyrion because he's been paid off by the Queen. He is a sellsword. He is going to go and try to kill Tyrion and Jaime. Is he going to succeed? I think he is very likely to succeed with one of them. Basically, what I'm saying here is that this is not going to end well. We're going to lose our love for Bronn. We're not going to like him anymore because he is going to go after the brothers, and I do think we are going to lose one of the brothers either at his hand or with his help. Something's going to happen with that, and I think Bronn is going to die himself as well. So that's not really setting us up for fun times, but this is Game of Thrones. What do you expect? The last thing that happens in the area is Theon's redemption arc continues because he rescues Yara. I am glad that this happened in the first episode. It was pretty clear that this was going to happen, but they didn't make a huge deal out of it because what's more important is where these two are going to go now. Theon is off to Winterfell to fight for the Starks. Yara is off to the Iron Islands, and I am not a biggest fan of the Greyjoy storyline in general, but there are things that I want to see happen. I am a fan of Yara's character, so I want to see her do something fun and do something exciting and perhaps become the queen of the Ironborn. I am a big hater of Euron, so I do hope that she kills him because he's annoying, or Theon kills him, one of them. Euron has to go. Can he die next episode? I hate that guy. And as far as Theon, I am still on the fence. I was never the biggest fan of his character, particularly where he started off. He was such a dick for the first couple of seasons. It was unbearable, and if you've read the books, it's even worse because you get his inner monologue, and he is just, he's awful. He was awful. But then horrible things happened to him. Nobody deserves that, obviously, even someone who was as big of a jerk as Theon. And then ever since then, he's kind of been on this redemption arc, and I want to know where it goes. What if he ends up being the one to kill the Night King? I doubt that would happen because my money is on Arya, particularly with the weapon that she's getting made. I think she's going to be the one to take the Night King out, but considering that he's headed to Winterfell and he's clearly going to do something important still, that could be a very interesting move for his character, but we'll see. Now, on to Winterfell and the North in general. There are a lot of callbacks that happen when it comes to this episode versus the very first episode of the series, particularly the beginning, of course, with the boy running around and climbing up to see Jon Daenerys and her army enter Winterfell, which is such a cool throwback to the first episode. And then, of course, the final shots of the episode with Jaime coming face to face with Bran for the first time since throwing him out the window. That was an awkward meeting, but it had to happen, and it was definitely a highlight of the episode, even though it was just a few seconds. Another throwback had to do with that dead body part art that the Night King left for everyone on the wall with poor Ned Umber. Pretty much if you're named Ned in this series, you're not surviving. This is the third Ned that has died a terrible death. But yeah, this message from the Night King, I'm not sure what this means. I don't know what this symbol stands for or the symbols that were in previous episodes. If you guys have any ideas, let me know, but I need to look into this because I'm curious what this all stands for. But once again, the White Walkers are creating these patterns out of dead bodies, and we saw this in the very first episode, of course, and then in a few other episodes, and it has always been very, very creepy and ominous. And by the way, while we are on this topic, how did Beric and Tormund survive? I mean, I didn't think they were going to be dead. I was hoping that they weren't going to be dead, but it did not look great for them when the wall came down and they were still trying to run down the wall. That was some crazy stuff at the end of the season with the dragon melting the wall down, and I have no idea how they survived, and apparently we're not going to cover that. We're just going to have them show up because, you know, they survived. Great. Back to the actual Winterfell, there are a lot of reunions happening this episode, and some of them better than others, but I love reunions. I think they were more impactful when they were the first reunions. I remember the scene when Jon first met Sansa after a long time, and that was super emotional, such a beautiful moment. And now that people keep meeting up, it's not as impactful, but still, they are beautiful moments. Arya and Jon reunion was by far my favorite part about the episode. That was just such a touching and heartwarming scene. Those two have always had a special relationship growing up. They have an understanding between the two of them. They are definitely very, very close. At least they were very close. They have been through a lot, so they kind of have to rekindle their friendship. But it was a beautiful scene and an emotional scene, and it was good to see them together on screen again and kind of understanding each other without having to say what they were thinking. They have a bit of a laugh about Sansa and her attitude, which we'll talk about in a moment, but they do understand that they're a family, and I do wonder how Arya is going to take the news of Jon actually being Aegon Targaryen, the sixth of his name. That's going to be interesting. Then, of course, we have Arya and the Hound, a very cold reunion, but there's still some respect there that you can obviously see. There's Arya and Gendry. That one was fun as well. Obviously, these two weren't as emotional as her reunion with Jon. And while we're speaking of Arya, it was kind of interesting to see how different Arya's reaction to the dragons was to Sansa's reaction to the dragons, because Arya is clearly very excited to see them. She is just in awe of these magnificent beasts, and Sansa just kind of looks at them with sighs out and she's like, oh god, dragons, another queen. What is my life? Sansa is kind of a dick to everyone in this episode, and it is reasonable for her to not accept Daenerys, because why would she? This queen showed up with dragons and an army that she has to figure out how to feed, and now she has to bend the knee to yet another person. Sansa is over all of that, and she doesn't want to trust somebody just because they say they're the new person in power and they're destined to be on the Iron Throne. She wants people to earn her trust, and there is nothing unreasonable about that, in my opinion. What was, however, unreasonable was her treatment of Tyrion. That kind of really upset me, because he did not deserve that welcome from her. Not only is she a jerk to Tyrion, she's also smug about it, and Tyrion is part of the reason why she survived King's Landing in the first place. He has always treated her with kindness and respect, and as you mentioned, it was a little bit hard for him to explain why his wife disappeared after Joffrey's murder, so her treating him the way that she did is entirely uncalled for, and honestly, I really hope that their relationship grows and they become friends and they grow to respect each other again, because the only reason she hates him is because he's one of the Lannisters, but as a person, he's never done anything to her. He's actually tried to help as much as he could, so that was just really annoying to watch. That was probably one of my least favorite parts of the episode. Now, with everything happening with Jon and Daenerys, I am very interested where this is going to go, because obviously Jon now knows that he is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, and he is Aegon Targaryen. And I think Sam asks a legitimate question when he says, you gave up your crown to save your people. Would she do the same? And I don't think she would do the same. Daenerys is back to her entitled self, and she thinks people should respect her just because she says she's the queen. She's never done anything for these people, but she's the queen, so they should kneel, and that's going to bite her in the ass very, very soon. I do not think she's going to take the news well of Jon being the heir to the Iron Throne. I think she's going to do something that we're not going to like her for, and I don't think Jon and Daenerys are going to survive this season. I think one of them is going to go, and I feel like it's going to be her, because in the end, if we go back to that question of should she be the queen, which is also something Sam asks. That scene, by the way, with Sam telling Jon about who his real parents are is just one of the best. It's probably my second favorite of the entire episode, because it was really, really good, and the acting was really good, and the location was perfect in the crypts. It was just everything worked in that scene. But he asks whether Daenerys should be the queen, and I don't know. I feel like the power is driving her a little bit crazy, and I think she's going to get worse and worse. Her character has been kind of going downwards for me, particularly because of how entitled she is and how much of her crazy Targaryen side keeps coming out. Even though she is still, she's sweet when she needs to be, when she wants to be, and she has been through a lot. I mean, from season 1, my God, but I don't think she should be the queen. I don't think she's going to be the queen, but maybe nobody's going to sit on the Iron Throne. We'll see. And speaking of Sam and Daenerys, their scene together is really, really good as well, when Daenerys and Jorah come to see Sam, and Daenerys wants to thank him for saving Jorah's life and curing him of grayscale, and then all of that goes to shit because Sam finds out that Daenerys executed his father and his brother, and that's obviously not making him like her very much, with good reason. I mean, she was a bit harsh in that scene. I remember commenting on it back when the season was airing, and I thought she made a mistake. Tyrion thought she made a mistake. Pretty much everybody thought that she was being a little bit too intense there, and now here we go. I do think the show is now setting up this Jon versus Daenerys situation, and people are going to start taking sides. People are already taking sides, and they were from the very beginning, but now it's really going to come to a head, and I'm definitely leaning Jon Snow in this situation. But, he is known to make a different kind of mistakes from Daenerys. I am particularly concerned about him because the Northerners are not very happy with him. As young Lyanna Mormont says, you left Winterfell a king and came back, I'm not sure what you are now, and we named you king in the north. People aren't happy that he just went to kneel for this foreign queen, which she is foreign to them. This also kind of reminded me of the whole situation when he was elected Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and then we know what happened. He let the wildlings through, and he paid for it with his life, and there is a bit of concern for me that he is going to meet the same fate here, and the Northerners aren't going to forgive him. I hope they are, because the Northerners are loyal, but I think their patience is going to end very, very soon. But we'll see how the battle for Winterfell goes. I don't think Jon is going to die within the next 2 episodes, although he might. I hope not. I hope he survives the season. The romance between the two, I'm still not a big fan of. I was never a fan of the idea of Jon and Daenerys being together, and it is weird because she's his aunt. I know it's very in tune with the Targaryen heritage, but come on, like, it's weird. We're watching this and it's weird, okay? But also, they just don't have the chemistry. Some scenes they do have the chemistry, and particularly the dragon scene I actually did like. The flying on the dragons, I know some people thought that was cheesy, but I did like it, and the whole thing where the dragons were giving them a look when they were making out, I thought that was funny. There was some very awkward humor in this episode, I forgot to mention, and I didn't like all of the humor, but that was I thought that was a good one. But yeah, I'm not a fan of their relationship still, and they kind of tried to make the best of it, and there were some scenes where it was kind of cute, but no, I'm not on board with this, particularly because they took them to the waterfalls, and that just really reminded me of the cave and Ygritte and how much more honest and real that relationship felt. And I'm such a fan of Jon and Ygritte together, and I'm so glad that they're together in real life. I know this is silly, but they're just so cute, and makes me happy that Jon and Ygritte are together in real life. Okay? Okay. Also, where's Ghost? Are we ever going to see Ghost again? I sure hope we are. I mean, I get it. Dragons take up a lot of the budget and the White Walkers and everything, but Ghost? Or at least let us know what happened to him. Like, where is he? He's supposed to be by Jon's side at all times, and he's just nowhere to be found. Not even a mention of him. The last thing, Bran, of course, he's still being his robotic self. I call him Robo Bran now because he's just, I mean, I get that he's a three-eyed raven and he's weird and out searching for things and seeing the past, the future, the present. I don't even know what's going through Bran's mind. Nobody knows what's going through his mind, but the reunion between him and Jon was fine. I mean, Jon was obviously more excited about it than Bran, but his character has become a wall. His face is just nothing at this point. It has been like that for a while, and it's not very exciting to watch. But, the Jaime and Bran reunion, that was fun. Bran was just waiting for an old friend for, I don't know, half a day. I don't know how long he's been there, an entire day, but here comes Jaime. This is going to be fun. And we're going to see what happens to him next episode. I am fully confident that Jaime is going to survive episode 2. He's going to fight in the battle for Winterfell. But after that, I don't know. Bronn might show up. The dead might get him. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure Jaime is going to die this season, which breaks my heart kind of because he is my favorite character. And I hope against hope that he's going to be okay, but probably not. Probably the only surviving Lannister is going to be Tyrion. And that's that. And that's it for this episode recap and review. I thought it was a pretty good opening episode. Opening episodes are rarely action-packed in Game of Thrones. The function of them is to set stuff up for the future, and I think as far as setup goes, this episode accomplished a lot. We had some really good scenes. The only opportunity for action was really with Theon and Yara. They kind of went over that pretty quickly. We didn't get much action there, but that's fine, we don't need to focus on that. What's important is what comes after, and there's going to be plenty of action and intrigue to come. I asked you guys on Twitter and on Instagram how you felt about it, and I would say most of you agreed with me as far as Jon and Arya reunion. There were some people who did not like the dragons, and there were some people who did. A lot of people found the Daenerys and Jon stuff cringy, and a lot of people hated how Sansa treated Tyrion. So let's keep talking about it on social media. I may start including some of your responses in my future recaps, so don't forget to let me know how you feel about the episode when you watch it after episode 2. And as far as death predictions for episode 2, I don't think anyone important is going to die next episode. Watch someone important die just because I suck at predictions. But I don't think anyone important is dying in episode 2. we'll see how this goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to my channel. And as always, I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye.